सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Om. Having completed the 14th chapter, now we will enter into the 15th chapter, one of the smallest chapters in the Gita, with only 20 verses, but one of the most important and popular chapters of the Gita, and it is often used as a prayer verse before taking food. Therefore, generally, when this chapter is chanted, people remember the food rather than the Lord. But it is a very important Vedantic chapter. And since it occurs in the last Shatkam of the Gita, all the three important topics of the last Shatkam are dealt with in this chapter. The three important themes of the last Shatkam, if you remember, is Jnana Yoga as the sadhana, Jivatma Paramatma Aikyam as the subject matter, and the importance of values or sadgunaha as a preparatory step for the Aikya Jnanam. Jnana Yogaha, Aikyam and Sadguna. These three are the main themes of the last Shatkam, and all these three topics have been well dealt with in this chapter. And this chapter is titled Purushottama Yogaha, and in the 15th chapter, the word Purushottama means Nirguna Chaitanyam. It does not refer to Saguna Ishvara, neither it refers to Saguna Vishnu, nor Saguna Krishna, and of course not Saguna Shiva. It refers to Nirgunam Brahma or Nirguna Chaitanya. And this meaning Lord Krishna himself gives at the end of the chapter. So there can be no controversy, because Krishna himself says Purushottama means attributeless consciousness. And Yogaha means the subject matter in this context. So Purushottama Yogaha means the topic of Nirgunam Brahma, which is the main teaching of this chapter. With this background, we will enter into the chapter proper. Atha Panchadashodhyayaha. Shri Bhagavanuvacha. Urdhvamulamādhaśyākham Ashvatham Prahuravyayam Chandamsi yasya parnāni Yastam veda sa vedavit. As the very title of the chapter shows, the topic is Nirgunam Brahma, and by the study of this chapter one will get Nirguna Brahma Jnanam. And naturally a person will have a question, why should I get Nirguna Brahma Jnanam at all? Because a person will not go after any knowledge unless he expects some benefit out of it. Prayojanam anuddishya namandopi pravartate. Any subject we study in college is from the standpoint of employment, and employment is from the standpoint of udara nimittam bahukrita vesha. So the question will come, why should I get Brahma Jnanam? So we should remember, Krishna is giving here Brahma Jnanam as a means of moksha or freedom. So moksha sadhanam Brahma Jnanam. Then the next question will come, what do you mean by moksha? What is the price per kilo? Kilo enna velai moksham. So we say moksha is samsara nivrittihi, freedom from samsara. And naturally the next question will be what is samsara? Samsara is the varieties of problems that a human being continuously faces. And to get out of the problem, he continuously runs about. I have told you before, autobiography of an individual is like the biography of an auto. Means what? Running about from one place to another. And not only he runs about throughout this life, the travel continues, payanangal mudivadillai, in the next janma also. So samsara means continuously facing problems and running about to get rid of this problem. And this struggle is called samsara. And freedom from that samsara is called moksha. And Brahma Jnanam is the remedy for that moksha. And according to the Vedanta, Brahma Jnanam is not one of the remedies, it is the only remedy available. And even if we make use of some other remedies, they will work only for some time. They will serve only as a palliative, but they will never serve as a curative. It will not solve the problem. And therefore, Brahma Jnanam is for moksha. Moksha is freedom from samsara. Now the thing is, I would like to get rid of samsara only if I think samsara is a problem. Only a person who looks upon samsara as a problem, he alone would love to get rid of this. If a person says, I am very, very comfortable as a samsari. In fact, many people laughingly they say, பெரிய சம்சாரியாக்கும் சொல்லுவான். So therefore, as long as a person loves samsara, he would not like moksha, and as long as he doesn't like moksha, for him Brahma Jnanam is irrelevant. And therefore Brahma Jnanam is relevant only for those people who have seen and discerned the problems of samsara. So samsara dosha darshanam is required for moksha ichha. Samsara dosha darshanam is a prerequisite for moksha ichha. And moksha ichha, Sanskrit la solren puriyirudho, samsara dosha darshanam means seeing the problem of samsara is the prerequisite for the desire of moksha. And moksha ichha is a prerequisite to develop interest in Brahma Jnanam. And interest in Brahma Jnanam is a prerequisite for continuously attending the class. So therefore, Krishna wants the students to continue, and that is possible only if they have diagnosed the problem. Without diagnosing the disease, I will never attempt an appropriate treatment. And everybody has got this basic disease called Bhavaroga. Bhavarogam araveru marundedhu பழவினைகள் துடராது உனை பதிக்க கேட்டிருக்கல இல்லையோ. Bhavaroga, samsara roga, I have to see. And that is why they prescribe after 40 years or 50 years, they say once in a while you should go for a master checkup. Whether you benefit or not, the hospital benefits very well. Doctors, please don't misunderstand me. And what is the purpose of master checkup? 10-20,000 ஆகும் இருக்கிற ஸ்கேன் எல்லாம் பண்ணி. The idea is what? If I have a problem, I should know what problem I have. And unless I know that, how will I attempt to remedy the problem? Similarly, we have to do a scanning of our life to discover the disease called Bhavaroga. Then we can go through a treatment program called Jnanam course. And therefore Krishna begins the 15th chapter with a description of samsara. Samsara means the whole life of change, the whole life of birth and death, old age and disease and death, association and dissociation, this whole transforming a life he talks about in the first 2.5 verses. That is the first 2 verses and the half of the 3rd verse. And in the 15th chapter, we don't find Arjuna asking any question. Therefore, Krishna himself volunteers to continue the teaching. So, Arjuna, உனக்கு பிடிச்சதோ பிடிக்கலையோ, I love teaching and therefore I would like to clarify further. and to give a description of the samsara, the changing universe, the changing beings, the changing life, Krishna compares this samsara to a huge tree called Ashwatha Vrikshaha. Ashwatha means a peepal tree. In Tamil, Arashamaram. There is another tree called Alamaram, that is banyan tree or Vatavrikshaha. We are not talking about the banyan tree here, which has got the secondary hanging thing. We are not talking about, but we are talking about the peepal tree, the Ashwatha Vriksha, which is very, very, very huge tree. And this comparative study is not Krishna's own original version, but this has been already done in Kathopanishad. And somehow it appears Krishna loves Kathopanishad, so he collects or quotes maximum verses from Kathopanishad. And in Kathopanishad, in the last section, last valli, the first mantra is Urdhva Mulo Vakshakaha Yesho Shvathas Sanatanaha Tadeva Shukram Tad Brahma Tadeva Amrita Muchyate Tasmil Loka Shrita Sarve Tadu Natyeti Kaschana Etadvaitat. Kathopanishad, second chapter, third section, first mantra, 2, 3, 1. Of course, Krishna does not bodily quote. He takes some portions of that mantra, and in that mantra, the universe, the changing universe and life is compared to a huge Ashwatha tree. And Shankaracharya gives a very, very elaborate commentary on this, both in his Kathopanishad Bhashyam as well as the Gita Bhashyam. Shankaracharya gives an elaborate commentary in which he studies the common features between the samsara and Ashwatha tree. Because a comparison is possible only when two things have got common features. If you say somebody looks like Muringakai and you look like Pushanikai, some common features must be there. In Sanskrit, it is called sadharmyam. Sadharmyam means what? Common features. At least there must be minimum one common feature to compare. Muringakkai sonna, not that you can eat him. The idea is one common feature is there, both are ullis in artham. But an example becomes a very, very significant, germane example. If there are many common features, the more the common features, better is the example. And Shankaracharya brings out several common features between the universe and Ashwatha Vriksha. I will just tell you some of the common features just to appreciate. The first common feature is Mahatvam. Mahatvam means both of them are very, very huge, very, very vast. Vastness is the common feature. The universe is also very huge and vast, and the Ashwatha Vriksha also, not a small plant, it is a huge tree. hugeness is common feature number one. And the second common feature is adyanta rahitatvam. You cannot trace the beginning of both, which is one of the fundamental questions people ask. When did the universe start? Is an invariable question. Why am I born? They ask. What answer can I give to give me problems? Somebody asks, why am I born? What can I say? To get me trouble only you are born, Salavan. Anyway, jokes apart, I have to tell the simple answer. Because of your karma, of course my karma is there. Because of your karma, you are born. And I think that I have answered your question. But if you are intelligent, you will ask, how did that karma come? Then I will say, of course, because of your previous janma. Then you will not leave me, you will ask the next question. How did the previous janma come? Of course, because of the previous karma. And then you get irritated and ask me, how did the first janma come? Every thinking intellect will ask this question, how did the first karma come? Or how did the first janma come? And then the next question will be, why did Bhagavan give me the first janma? Ennai yen padaithan, naan yen pirandhen. So the next question will be, why did Bhagavan create? All these questions are very natural. Here we say, there is no beginning for the creation. Therefore, never ask the question, how did the first karma or first janma come? It never came. The universe ever was. So you cannot talk about the beginning, and also you cannot therefore talk about the end. It is an eternal cycle of karma to janma, janma to karma. And the same thing you can see in a tree also. If somebody asks, how did the tree come? What will be my answer? Of course, because of the seed. Then you will ask, how did the seed come? Of course, because of the previous tree. How did the previous tree come? Because of its previous seed. Tennamarama tengaya, koliya muttaya. So therefore, never ask this question, because creation is a cyclic phenomenon, and for a cyclic phenomenon, Adi and Anta cannot be talked about. Therefore, what is the second common feature? World is also Adyanta Rahitam. Tree is also Adyanta Rahitam. So, Adyanta Rahitatvam is the second feature. And the third feature is Anirvachaniyatvam. Inexplicability. Logically uncategorizable. In what sense? You can never say a thing is a cause or an effect. You can never pinpoint whether a thing is a cause or an effect, because from one standpoint a thing is a cause, the very same thing is an effect from another standpoint. So today is cause or effect. From yesterday's standpoint, it is an effect. From tomorrow's standpoint, it is a cause. A person is an effect effect from the standpoint of his parents and cause from the standpoint of his children. And that is why the fate free will question also is eternally unresolved, because you can take any point of time and you can call it fate or you can call it free will also. If you look at a particular point and see as an effect of the past, you will call it fate. And if the very same point is seen as the cause of the future, you will call it what? Free will. So you can never pinpoint whether a thing is absolutely fate or absolutely free will, absolutely cause or absolutely effect, absolutely parent or absolutely child. Nobody is absolute parent. And similarly, am I guru or shishya? Nah. From the standpoint of my students, I am guru. From the standpoint of my guru, I am shishya. So thus, nothing is clearly categorizable, logically classifiable. And therefore, the tree is also anirvachaniyam. The universe is also anirvachaniyam. That is why we use the word Maya. It is a magic. The more you probe into the creation, the more mysterious it becomes. And the scientists will say, we are about to solve the mystery of this creation. They have been telling this for several decades. And when they solve a mystery, it is replaced by a bigger mystery. Therefore, what is the third common feature? Anirvachaniyatvam. Then the fourth common feature is Moolavatvam. The tree has got a root. You can never have a tree without a root below. But the peculiar thing is, the tree is visible, pramana gocharam, whereas the root is underneath, it is not visible to you. But even if you don't see the root, you certainly know that there is a root, because without a root, there cannot be tree. Extending the same principle, we say that the universal tree also must have a moolam, a root. And that root is called Bhagavan, Ishvaraha. And if you ask Bhagavana Kano me, if you argue that I don't see Bhagavan, I will tell you, you don't see the root also. A root is also invisible. The root of the universe is also invisible. But one thing, even though I don't see the root, I know that without the root, the tree cannot stand. Similarly, I don't see Bhagavan around, but I know that the universe cannot stand without a moolam, and that is Bhagavan Vishwadharam. And therefore, tree has an invisible root, and the world also has got an invisible root called Bhagavan. That is why in Vishnu Sahasranama, one of the names of the Lord is Adhokshajaha. Akshajaha means sensory knowledge. Aksha means sense organs. Jaha means born out of. And adhaha means beneath or beyond, not falling within. So adhokshajaha means the one who is beyond the sensory knowledge. And therefore, the invisible root of the universe is Bhagavan, and this root is common to both. We call it Moolavatvam. This is the fourth common feature. Then the fifth common feature is Shakhavatvam. A huge tree has got many branches, spreading far and wide, and some branches are on the top, Uchani Kumbu Solramaliya, top, and some branches are in the bottom, and some branches are in the middle. So top, middle and bottom branches are there, many for this tree. Similarly, the universe also has got several branches called the higher, middle and lower loka. So the higher loka and the higher bodies, Deva Shariram represents Urdhva Shakha, the upper branches. Manushya Loka comes under the middle branch, and Atala Vitala Sutala Rasatala Mahatala Patala Paryantam, all the lower lokas will come under the lower branches. Thus the universe is a vast tree with the 14 lokas as its branches. So Shakhavatvam is the next common feature. Then the sixth common feature is Parnavatvam. The tree is full of leaves. The tree is full of leaves, and it is so thick foliage that you don't even see the trunk and branches. So many leaves are there. And similarly, the universal tree has got the leaves in the form of karmani or karma kanda of the Vedas, are compared to the leaves of the samsara tree. So here you will require a slight explanation. Why do we compare the karma kanda to the leaves of the tree? The leaves are very important for the perpetuation and the growth of the tree. In fact, leaves protect the tree, helps the tree survive. And you know, the leaves alone have got the chlorophyll, and that's why it is green, and it does photosynthesis, and it cooks food, and because of that alone, the tree survives. And through osmotic pressure, it absorbs water. School ellam padichu maranda vishayam, you know that. So that is why in Sanskrit, it is called Chadanat Chandamsi. The karma kanda of the Veda is called Chandas because it protects the samsara tree like the leaves of the original tree. Now the question is, how does karma kanda protect, perpetuate and help the growth of the tree? You must have inferred by now, Karma Kanda talks about varieties of karmas and also tempts all the people to do those karmas by promising varieties of result. You do this karma, you will get children. You do that karma, you will get money. You do this karma, you will go to heaven. Full of advertisement. And naturally a person is attracted by karma kanda. In fact, jnana kanda is never appealing. Mandukya Upanishad eppadi irukku ketta enna solluvel? Swamiji romba dry ah iruken. Enna pandrathu? You had it, you chose to come. So jnana kanda is generally not appealing, whereas karma kanda is the most appealing thing because he asks you to do varieties of karma to get varieties of results. And therefore this person will take to varieties of karmas, and karmas will produce what? Karma phalam. And karma phalam means what? Punya papam. Punya papam, as they increase, they will lead to what? Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Thus, the samsara cycle of birth and death is perpetuated by karma kanda, by tempting the people to do varieties of karma. Urdhvam gacchanti sattvasthaha punya karmava pannina mela povel madhye tishthanti rajasaha. So middle karmava pannithu sonna middle la irupel. Jaganya guna vrittasthaha adho gacchanti tamasaha. While jnana kandam puts an end to the samsara tree, karma kanda nourishes the samsara tree. And therefore they are like the leaves of a tree. Therefore parnavatvam. Then the seventh common feature is phalavatvam. Any tree or most of the trees will have fruits, because they have to attract the birds for the perpetuation, and therefore the tree means phalam or fruit will be there. And fruits are of three types. Some of them are sweet, some of them are sour, and some of them are katamita, whatever it is a mixture. சில மாம்பழம் எல்லாம் பார்த்துக்கூட இந்த பக்கம் திதிக்கும், அந்த பக்கம் புளிக்கும். Similarly, the whole samsara vriksha also gives us three types of fruit. Sukham, sukha phalam. Maja, maja, you are very happy. You glorify God. God is wonderful. World is wonderful. Because the son got the admission. Ore kudiyo kudi. And then comes some news. The another son lost the job and returning from America. Poach flat. So then you begin to curse the world. Why this life at all? I don't want anything. Samsara is misery. Why should Bhagavan create this world? Ore criticism. So that's all the time what were you doing? Jumping up and falling flat. So one is called Sukha Phalam, another is called Dukkha Phalam, sometimes Mishra Phalam. I have told you, Chilar Ajuvar, Chilar Shiripar, Chilar, and the generation Tandiachi, Chilar Ajudu Honde Chiripar. So therefore crying and laughing together, Mishram. So thus, Sukha, Dukkha, Mishra, phalavatvam for this samsara tree. That is the 7th common feature. Then the 8th common feature is, rendu kuda solli nirthi viduven, don't worry. Iduve samsaram aiduthe solladenga. Because Shankaracharya has given many. Therefore, I thought I should tell at least 10 out of it. So, if you read the original, Shankaracharya enjoys, and language is highly poetical also. And huge compounds, ha ha, hu, lan solrar, muncha, enna vidu, solli kathindrukalam. Very interesting poetry there. So, I thought I will do some justice. So, therefore, put up with me, 2 more I will tell. So, the 8th feature is Pakshi Ashrayatvam. So, the tree becomes the support for the nest of the birds. So, they serve as the nesting site for the birds, which alone will eat the fruits. The tree is not going to eat. Only the birds which occupy the tree, they alone enjoy the sukha dukkha phalam. Similarly, in the vast universe, who are the birds? All the jivas are the birds. Some jivas are in the higher branch in anartham, Swarga Loka Deva Shariram. Some of them are in the middle branch, means what? Manushya Loka, Manushya Shariram. Some of them are in lower branches, means what? Adho Loka and Adho Shariram. And therefore, it is Pakshi Ashrayaha. Ashrayaha means what? The support. The tree supports the birds. Similarly, the samsara tree supports the jiva bird. And when I say jiva bird, the Upanishadic student should remember the well-known Mundaka Upanishad mantra. Dvana sayuja sakhaya samanam vriksham pari. So, tayoranyaf pippalam swadu atti anashnan anyaha abhichakashiti. The Jivatma bird perched on the samsara tree experiences the sweet and bitter fruits. So, Pakshyashrayatvam is the 8th feature. The 9th feature is Chalanavatvam. The huge tree moves because of the wind. And especially when there is powerful cyclonic wind, even though it is a huge tree, it moves up and down here and there. In the same way, the whole samsara tree, along with all the jivas, are taken here and there by the wind of prarabdha karma. So we are all taken to various conditions, various places, various situations, lashed by the wind of prarabdha. People say, wanted to be in Madras, Swamiji, transfer vanduduthu. And this person goes elsewhere and gets transferred elsewhere. And thus our life is governed by the prarabdha wind. And therefore, Chalanavatvam is the 9th common feature. And the 10th and final common feature, which is final for us, is Chedyatvam. Even though this tree is very, very huge, by appropriate effort, this tree can be uprooted. It is possible to put an end to this tree and the cycle by using the appropriate acts. Similarly, the huge samsara chakram also can be uprooted by the special acts called jnanam. In fact, the very word vrikshaha means that which can be uprooted. It is derived from the root vrashch, and vrashchanam means chedanam. Shankaracharya gives in his commentary, ovrashchu chedane. So the dhatu patha he quotes, and vrashchanat vrikshaha. It is possible to uproot, not easy. If it is a small plant, you can effortlessly remove. But if it is ashwatha tree, not easy. And these are the common features because of which the samsara is compared to a tree. And Krishna mentions many of these common features, and Krishna also adds a few more common features, which we will see as the verse come. With this background, you look into the first verse. Ashwatham prahuhu. You have to supply the word samsaram. So this entire samsara, the life of change, is considered to be similar to ashwatha. Samsaram ashwatha tulyam prahuhu is comparable to ashwatha vriksha. And what type of ashwatha tree? The description comes, urdhva moolam, which has got a root called urdhvam. The word urdhvam has two meanings. One meaning is that which is superior, therefore sacred. And the Lord is superior and sacred because the Lord is the cause, the parent of the universe, and the entire universe is the child of the Lord, and therefore Bhagavan, the cause, is the universal Father, the superior Father, therefore urdhvam, superior. You should not take the literal meaning of the word here. Literal meaning of the word urdhvam means physically or spatially above. It does not mean Bhagavan is spatially sitting on the ceiling. So we are not talking about spatial aboveness, because the very word above is a relative word. What is above for us? For the Americans it will be below. So therefore here urdhvam means superior, utkrishtatvam, urdhatvam. And the second meaning of the word urdhvam means that which is beyond our comprehension. And that is why if you don't understand a talk, Mandukyam Veshungole, so you say today's class went above my head. So above my head na anartham, enodu vaartha appadiye neela vaasal vadiya veliyila poidudhu nu artham. So there went above my head means it was incomprehensible. Therefore one meaning is superiority, the second meaning is incomprehensibility. In Sanskrit it is called durvijneyatvam. So Utkrishtatvam and Durvigneyatvam are the two meanings of the word Urdhvam. And what is superior and incomprehensible? Brahman or Paramatma. And this superior, incomprehensible Brahman is the moolam of this samsara tree. This superior, incomprehensible Brahman or Bhagavan is the moolam. Moolam means the root of the samsara tree, which I have already talked about. Then the next is Adhashakam. All the branches in the form of the 14 lokas are Adhaha, means below. And here the word below also has got two figurative meanings. There above, I told you, superior. And therefore below must means what? Inferior. So the inferior lokas are the branches of the samsara tree. And the second meaning of the word below is, there we said incomprehensible. What is the opposite of incomprehensible? Comprehensible, visible. The perceptible loka is comparable to the branches. The imperceptible God is comparable to the root. The inferior world is comparable to the branches. The superior God is comparable to the root. And this Ashwatha Vriksha is Avyayam. Avyayam means what? Eternal, whose beginning and end cannot be traced, because it flows in the form of a chain, the tree producing the seed and the seed producing tree. So in the form of tree, seed, cycle or chain, it is Anadi and Anantaha. And similarly, the human life also is a cyclic chain. You can never talk about the beginning of Jiva. Because this Janma is because of previous karma. Previous karma is because of previous Janma. Previous Janma is because of its previous karma. Thus, karma Janma Chakra Rupena Avyayam. It is eternal. Then Chandamsi Yasya Parnani. So the protecting, sustaining leaves of the samsara tree are none other than the Veda prescribed karmas. Chandamsi means Vedasya karma kandam. And the karma kanda will always make the people to remain in the field of ritual. There are many who love the rituals, but they never like Gita, Upanishad, those topics they don't like at all. They are highly religious people. They go from temple to temple, Abhishekam to Abhishekam, Atirudram to Maharudram. They love the ritualistic portion. They never come to Vedanta. That means what? They successfully perpetuate this samsara. Then does it mean that karma kanda should be thrown away? Very careful. It does not mean that karma kanda is our enemy to be thrown away. What we say is, karma kanda must be used up to a particular limit, and sooner or later one should transcend the ritualistic portion and spend more time in philosophical portion. Generally, people tend to go to two extremes. One extreme is people never like religious pujas or rituals. One extreme. And their problem is what? They have no way of purifying the mind. Puja is the only method of purification. Therefore, some people get into one extreme. And there is another extreme. They love the puja, abhisheka, etc. And their problem is what? They permanently remain there. Like saying, I love the 5th standard so well. And the teacher also is so compassionate. Ingeye ukkandirukene. That is also not correct. Enter karma kanda, purify and come to jnana kanda. So which alone you have done successfully, I think. Chandamsi yasya parnani. Yaha tam veda. So the one who understands this universal tree with many branches, leaves, fruits, etc., the one who knows this universal tree, and Shankaracharya adds, along with the root of Brahman. Tree matram therinjunda poradhu. One who knows the tree of this universe, along with the root of Bhagavan or Brahman. So, samulam vriksham yaha veda, saha vedavit. He alone is a wise person who has understood the scriptures properly. Vedavit means Vedarthavit, the one who is a jnani. Details in the next verse, which we will see in the next class. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.